I absolutely dread walking my dog because I know as soon as I get out the door, she's going to drag me through it. And then when I get to the street, she's going to drag us down the street, and walks just aren't enjoyable anymore. They're painful, they're horrible. I'm embarrassed because no matter what I try with my dog, she always pulls on the leash. And I've went through loads of collars, loads of leashes, loads of harnesses, and nothing seems to work. If this sounds like you, keep watching, because I'm going to explain to you why you can get all the tools under the sun and they don't work. And then I'm going to explain to you what you need to do if you want your dog to walk nicely on the leash. So, the reason why you can get loads of harnesses and leashes and collars and still say absolutely no improvement is because you're relying too heavily on the tool without any training. And a lot of people do this because they've seen advertisements for things like anti-pull collars or anti-pull harnesses. And the truth is, the companies that are making these are massive. They've got massive marketing teams, and they know how to convince you to buy their product. All right, they know most people who have dogs that pull on the leash, they are quite literally at the end of the tether. All right, walks are not enjoyable, they're painful even. And so they know if they can convince you, hey, look, okay, all you have to do is pay 30 quid for this harness and all the pulling will be taken away. They know they'll make money from that, okay? Now, for the advertisements of these companies, what they do is they usually do before and after videos. And these before and after videos are extremely misleading. So usually what they'll have is a video of a dog that's pulling on the leash, normally a Labrador, by the way. And it'll be pulling on the leash. And then you'll see an after video where the dog isn't pulling at all, but it just so happens to be wearing their product, okay? Now, the truth is, they just took a dog that pulls on the leash, took a video of it, and then what they do is they do a bit of training with the dog so that it walks nicely, and then they put their product back on the dog and quickly take the visual. They only need the dog to walk well for about 30 seconds, if that, while they do their video, okay? Now, here's the thing. Sometimes they can do that in like one setting. Other times they'll have a dog that pulls horrifically because it looks great for their video, and then they'll come back in a couple of weeks and they'll do the after video. They'll use the same person, wearing the same clothes, in the same place, and they'll do it on a day with the same weather. Now, you might be thinking, that's a really long thing to do to be so dishonest, and you're absolutely right, okay? But the way these companies think is right, okay? So, if we sell thousands of this anti-pull harness or anti-pull leash, we are going to make hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the truth is, they don't care that they're being dishonest, right? They're just here to make money. So that's why you can't trust these adverts when they tell you, oh, well, you know, if your dog's pulling, just buy our harness, buy our leash, buy our collar. It's not going to work. It's not as simple as that. But they know that you want a quick product that you can just buy like that and have the problem taken away. And a lot of people end up going through loads of different tools to absolutely no avail. I mean, I've been to clients' houses where they've literally come in and they've brought me a box, ripped the lid off and said, I have tried everything in this box, nothing is working, which is why I've got you. All right. I once had a client who opened a cupboard and she had loads, like literally every harness and leash and collar that you can think of, she had in this like closet cupboard thing. Well, closet, that was a very American term for me to use. Cupboard. She had everything. Okay, but the thing that she didn't have was the right exercises and the right training program. All right, now please don't waste your money on all these different products that are supposed to take away pulling, because you'll end up disappointed and you'll still have a dog that pulls in the end of it. Because like I said, they are not marketed so that they can be honest. They're marketed so that you can buy their product. All right, so please don't waste your money on those things. All right, because they're not going to solve the problem. You're just going to spend a lot of money and be really disappointed. All right. Now, the only product that I've come across that is labeled as anti-pull that actually sometimes works is a halty. All right. I don't like halties. They're not designed very well for dogs. All right. Now, if you don't know what a halty is, it's a head collar for a dog. It sits over their nose. Now, the reason I don't like these is because they're generally very tight and they pull back when the dog pulls. Now dogs, they have nerve endings here, all right? They can cause a lot of damage. And also halties, when the dog pulls and the haltie, like the head collar pulls as well, it can basically pull up into their eyes like that, and it's really painful, okay? Another thing, all right, that I want to mention to you about halties, which is why I don't like them, is the way that they stop a dog from pulling is that you pull, the dog will pull and their head gets jerked. Now in theory, they should just get pulled down, but they don't. They never do. What happens is they will pull on the leash and their head will do this, like that. All right, now that's not comfortable for me to do, and I don't even have a head collar on, but that's how halties work. It's to make the dog as uncomfortable as possible so that they stop pulling. But like I say, if you do that, that's really uncomfortable. If you're on this side and your dog's over here, they pull and then their head gets jerked. That can cause spine damage later on. All right, it's not good for their face, it's not good for their neck. So although you might get a haltie and it might work to stop your dog from pulling, please don't do it. It's not good for the dog. You might end up injuring them. Okay, so like I say, the haltie is the only anti-pull thing that I've seen on the market that can work, but I don't like them because they're not very good for a dog's well-being. All right, and also if your dog pulls, it's a great opportunity to train them so that you have a better relationship and a better bond. So what can you do if your dog is pulling? What actually works? Well, when I have clients that have dogs that pull, I basically look at the dog and I chat with the person to see what is going to work, okay? Because it's kind of like horses for courses. What works for one dog isn't going to work for another. And all these different tools, leashes, harnesses, collars, they serve different purposes. What works for one dog isn't going to work for another. Some dogs just completely ignore the pressure that comes with a normal collar, but they work well on a slip lead. Other dogs freak out with a slip lead, and so you can't use it. Okay, so there's different tools for different dogs, and my job is to figure out what is going to work for the dog, what's going to work for the person, and what is comfortable. From here, I like to work on the door situation, because a dog that pulls you down the street, more often than not, they're pulling to get out the door, so I like to help with that first. I like to get the dog to wait so that you can open the door and they wait for you to go through. From here, I like to teach people how to teach their dog tension control. Okay, so this is the idea that your dog can have a bit of leeway. They can go around and sniff and walk, maybe not right next to you, but within the same area. They can sniff, they can have a look about and things like that. You might hear this being called loose leash training, by the way, if you're looking at different things on YouTube. So that's normally my first step once we're away from the house. Then I fine tune that to a heel. Okay, I like to do this very organically. I don't like just feeding a dog treats so that they just walk next to me, because truthfully it's not a great mindset. I see a lot of dog trainers just constantly telling their clients just keep them eating food and walking next to you. The idea of a treat is really to reward them for the positioning, but a lot of people get in the habit of just constantly feeding their dog treats. And you'll see it quite often. I can tell straight away when a dog's being taught heel with that, because they'll be walking along and their owner will be up here and they'll be doing this. Constantly looking up, all right? It's kind of like an addiction. They know there's a payout, they just don't know when, okay? Have you ever seen people in casinos? Like there's one at the Dunes, I believe, in South Shields, and people will just sit at those machines for hours because they know there's going to be a payout. They just don't know when. And so they become addicted to just staying there. And that's what happens if you don't gradually take away the food when you're doing heel. So I don't typically do a lot of food training with heel. I do sometimes, and we do sometimes use it, but for me, I like to teach my clients sorry, dry throat. I like to teach my clients how to get their dog to walk to a heel nice and organically to help build the relationship, rather than you just being a treat machine. Okay, the next step is engagement. All right, does your dog engage with you, or is their mind like 10 feet in front of them? All right, this is something that I do with people when their dogs are incredibly reactive to other dogs or people or whatever, because if you can't get your dog's attention when there's nothing major going around, you're not going to get their attention when there is something that is a trigger to them going around. So that's when we go on to engagement work. So as you can see, if you want your dog to walk nicely on a leash, you are going to have to put in some work. I'm really sorry, but these anti-pull devices just don't work. They don't work, not unless you want to get a halty and damage the relationship between you and your dog because they're uncomfortable. In fact, we've had clients come to us and say, well, my dog pulls when they're on like a harness and a normal collar, but if I put the halty on, it does stop them, but they don't enjoy it. And that's when you get dogs that are pawing at their face to get it off. They'll be ragging it against someone's wall, trying to get the halty off because it's not enjoyable. It's not comfortable. And the other thing I wanted to mention as well is that people tend to get anti-pull harnesses. And you got to go with what the dog feels comfortable in. You know, so we've had clients before where they'll try to put a harness on their dog. Usually one that's been marketed is anti-pull. And the dog just runs away as soon as it sees it. They scarp it. They literally run away from the sight of the harness. And it's because they find it uncomfortable. Alright, so when you're wanting to get a dog to walk nicely, like I say, you got to find something that works for them. You got to work on some door manners. Let's do some loose leash training. Let's fine tune that to a heel. Let's get some engagement. It's a journey, really. And it can be fun if you have the right mindset, you know, and you're not just focused on the end result, but you're focused on building a relationship with your dog, building mutual respect, you know. It's a journey. It's not just something that you can fix like that. But like I say, all these anti-pull things that you're being marketed are done by a team of people who are really great at marketing, and their products aren't very good. But it doesn't matter because you're only going to buy it once from them, and they've made their money, so they don't care. So yeah, you have to put in the work, you have to do a little bit of training. Now I do want to mention that we do have in-person sessions. One thing that we've just recently implemented are payment plans, because in around about November time we started seeing that a lot of people wanted training but they were struggling financially over Christmas and things like that. And so if you want to do some training with us but now might not be the time financially, just let us know and we can sort out a payment plan for you. In the next couple of months, we also have a educational video library coming out. So on that, you're going to see lots of exclusive videos, training videos. Now, see, the thing is, I can do a live video and it's like 10 minutes long. And Facebook's like, yeah, let's give you some reach. But if I do a 10-minute video on training and it's recorded and then I upload it, Facebook says, nope, and it just tanks the reach. So that's why we're going to be putting our long form content or training content into the educational video library so that you can see it basically. Lots of behind the scenes things in that as well, so it's going to be great, so keep an eye out for that in the next couple of months. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Hi Laura, hope you're doing well. Paula, Wendy. Actually Wendy, you just contacted us recently. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to work with you. So yeah, anyway, ignore the anti-pull devices because generally they're not very good, and if they do work, they're uncomfortable for your dog. Do some training, like I said, like I just outlined basically how I normally go about it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, hope it was useful. Don't waste your money on all these anti-pull things because that's exactly what you're doing, you're wasting your money. Nothing beats training, but you got to be consistent. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I am going to be doing a live video next Monday, same time, 7:30. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but I'll think of something. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the month, or maybe next month, I'm going to do a live Q&A, so if you've got any questions about your dog's behaviour, feel free to let me know. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully see you in the next one.